What's going on, everyone? This is the My Aggie Nation podcast. I'm Travis Brown with the Eagle, alongside Robert Cessna, veteran, legendary A&M reporter. We're reporting on a Mississippi State road game this week as A&M travels out to Starkville to face Mike Leach and the Air Raid offense. See, so let's since this is your first time on this podcast in a while, A&M so far this year, how I know you've graded them each game. What does it look like to you? We'll start over. Sorry, that's okay. All right. In 3, 2, 1. What's going on, everyone? This is the My Aggie Nation podcast. I'm Travis Brown with the Eagle, alongside Robert Cessna, veteran A&M reporter from the Eagle as well. Since this is your first time on the podcast here in a while, let's look at A&M up until this point, heading into this Mississippi State road trip this weekend. What have you seen from the Aggies? What have you liked, and what have you not liked?
Well, it's kind of funny, as Travis, when you started to ask that question, I'm thinking, I kind of thought they might be 3-1, but not by losing to Appalachian State, because I thought Arkansas might be the team that they would lose to again, because Arkansas starts 21 out of 22 upperclassmen. I thought A&M's offense would be so much better with the line, with the chain, with the new receivers, with Haynes King. So you think about how things have changed so much in 4 games. Haynes King's not the quarterback. Max Johnson's the quarterback. Now this team's got to move forward without Anaya Smith. The defense by far is the strength of the team. So you talk about some transition in 4 games. They're 3-1, which I thought they probably would be, but not, ranked 17th in the country. On the outside looking in so much of the college football playoff, I don't think they're going to get back there. But I think this is a huge game. If they can beat Mississippi State and get to 4-1, they'll move up again. They'll get into the top 15 going into Alabama. And so, and I didn't think they would be. I didn't think their youth would hurt them as much as it has. They definitely are young. That young talent makes a lot of mistakes. We saw last week 9 penalties, and I know changing quarterbacks. So I think, as a rider, it's been a roller coaster ride. I think if you're a fan, at times they're frustrated, and sometimes they're very happy. I talked to a lot of people already since the Arkansas game. They're happy, but they were very mad the 2 previous weeks before that.
Yeah, I know when we were doing your grades for this last game at Arkansas, you gave coaching a little bit of a bump on the grade because of the decision to go to Max Johnson compared to what Haynes King was able to do in the first 2 games. What is it about Max Johnson's game that you like so much that not only you give a bump to the offense, but you give a bump to the coaching for making that decision as well?
He just doesn't make mistakes. And I know it's only been 2 games, but you look, he's kind of like who he is. If you go back and look his history, he's going to be sacked 3 times a game because he doesn't throw the ball away. He's not careless with the ball. He's going to throw about 250, yards high and low. And you can tell he just gets the job done. And I also give him a bump because I like what Durkin did last time with rushing 3 most of the game. And I'm sitting up there like all quarterback coaches, so to speak, in the press box saying, why are they rushing 3? They're going to get killed. And they did get killed in those first 2 drives. But it proved to be the thing that beat Arkansas in the long run. So I got to give Durkin a big plug. And so I just didn't think A&M would struggle. I thought this talent would play better, but I keep forgetting they're 18 and 19-year-old kids. You still got to coach them. The good news for A&M, they're big upswing with all those kids if they can continue to coach them and coach them better.
I know Max Johnson was joking with us a couple of weeks ago, talking about how it's just a rumor that he couldn't run. He has run the ball well when they needed him to. Brad Johnson, his dad, told me last week he runs a 4.6 40, can dunk a basketball, is a good athlete. His running ability was seemingly the thing that separated him from Haynes King, but I don't necessarily sense a drop off there in that ability to tuck the ball and run if that is what the play dictates.
What's kind of funny is I look at him as actually more mobile than Kellen Mond. And I always felt Kellen Mond could have been a much better runner, but I think he was trying to stay in the pocket so much he overcompensated. I always thought at times he looked like a robot. I don't think so far in 2 games Max Johnson looks like a robot. I think sometimes Saturday he looked like he was running for his life, and he did quite well. And if you remember right, going back to his LSU year, that was a pretty bad offensive line. He had a run and escape. He was able to will that team to 6-6. So I think, you know, he is a product of the people around him. I think he elevates the people around him, and that's all you want a quarterback to do. I think Mon did that successfully. They had a lot of upperclassmen around. The difference with Johnson is he has too many youngsters and think he's going to have you think if you're Max Johnson right now, you're losing Aniyah Smith. I bet Aniyah Smith was a great security blanket with him just when they went into the huddle. Now when he goes in the huddle, he's got his center, maybe Max Wright, but that's just about it.
And if you go back to the LSU days, there wasn't a whole lot of quarterback depth behind him towards the end of the season last year, so they weren't going to do a lot of design runs and let him get out and let him get injured and not have anybody to back him up. You mentioned a good point there. Aniyah Smith is out for the remainder of the season with a fractured lower leg. We'll need surgery to repair that. You started to touch on it. It's a very young receiving core, and he was about the only veteran leader out there that had significant playing time. What do you expect from these wide receivers heading into this Mississippi State game, in a game that A&M could need points to stay in it?
I'm real concerned about that, like a fan would be as well, because I don't know where they're going to get those catches. Everybody says, well, Evan Stewart. I'm waiting to see. I really believe a lot of games they gave extra attention to Aniyah Smith. They probably covered him with a corner and a safety. I'm not an X and O's guy, but now they can put that attention somewhere else, whether that's more put an extra guy in the box and try to pressure Johnson, put an extra guy in the box to try to drop a chain. So I was very pleasantly pleased with Donovan Green. He got 3 catches for 50 yards. A&M's got more linebackers than I have. I mean, more tight ends than I have daughters. I mean, it's incredible. And so maybe they're going to start using 2 or 3 of those for blocking. And if Green can catch like 6 passes a game as a tight end, then you might be able to make up. Because if they don't make up for Aniyah Smith, that 7-5 or 8-4 could be in play again.
Right, and that's been the hallmark of Jimbo's offenses since he got here, is the security blanket, the possession receiver that Aniyah Smith has kind of had to take over a little bit this year, has always been the tight end, if it's Jay Sternberger or Jalen Weidermeyer in his seasons here, and they haven't really had that kind of production yet, save for this Arkansas game with Donovan Green. That would be a good place to see more of that production as well. And probably the guy that has the 2 guys that have lined up behind Aniyah in some of his wide receiving positions is Yul Keith Brown and Moose Muhammad. Moose Muhammad got significantly more playing time last week, but didn't really make the most of it. He had, in that one drive in the span of about 3 plays, had the post route where he was wide open. If he would have kept running, he probably would have got under it, but he chose to jump and missed it, and then had the block on the back penalty that set them back. They ultimately were able to get a field goal out of that drive, but was a drive that easily could have had points if some of those plays stood. So it will be interesting to see how they set that up. I think the biggest storyline to think about here is Mike Leach's air raid offense against DJ Durkin. They went with the 3-man front against a physical, running heavy Arkansas team. Used that linebacker to spy the quarterback. It's probably going to be a 3-man front again, but with a much different look as they try to stop that passing. What Durkin has success against Mississippi State. What are you kind of expecting from A&M's defense here?
Yeah, I'd be really interested to look, because he beat him twice. I went back and looked. He allowed Rogers to throw a lot of balls, a lot of completions. They didn't really have a lot of turnovers. But once again, they held Mississippi State's points down. It's all about points, which Elko, you go back and look, that's what Elko is about. He let a lot of teams get between the 30s and 20s, but he didn't give up a lot of points. And Durkin, to me, I thought Mississippi State, the Arkansas State game was huge. You get Miles Jones back. They're so deep in the secondary. Yeah, they gave up 440 yards, but I didn't think the offense did enough of their part. They did more, But I think this team could get to the points where the defense could be the bell cow. If the defense can hold everybody between 21 and 25 points or less, then you got a chance to win every game, maybe even Alabama. I'll be interested to see these next 2 weeks what the defense can do on the road, because you got to take your defense on the road. And Durkin, I thought Durkin was a great hire. I think he proved that last Saturday. When you think about, the defense made that one play, and you could say it was luck, but they frustrated, KJ Jefferson a few times, and I think they frustrated the Arkansas defense. So can they do the same thing against Mississippi State?
Well, that brings up a good point too, in the fact that the defense has basically been the bell cow of A&M's success the last 3 seasons. For most of the time that Jimbo Fisher has been in Aggie land, they hired Jimbo Fisher as an offensive guru, the quarterback whisperer, and yet it doesn't seem like, save for that 2020 season, but even at times, you look at the LSU game, that 2020 season, I think it was the LSU game, they had some games where the offense just sputtered. A lot of talk about Jimbo Fisher. Should he bring an offensive coordinator? Is his system antiquated? What have you seen from Jimbo Fisher's offense this year? Do you think it's just a matter of building up some inexperienced guys and getting them fully integrated into the system, or do you think it's something that seriously needs to be looked at in a system type change or an offensive coordinator, different play caller?
I got to laugh when people talk about that, because I feel Jimbo Fisher and Mike Leach are two alike. They're offensive gurus. They believe they can call the best plays. I don't think they're going to give it up come hell or high water. When you think about when LSU won their national championship, you go back, Jimbo called a very conservative game. They won it with defense when Saban had it. That's when Saban was much more defensive oriented. I think Jimbo looks to get the running game going always. When things get tough, lean on a defense, ball control. Will he open it up a little bit? I think it all depends on how Max Johnson progresses. Say what you will, he's only been in Jimbo's system on the field 2 games. I think Max Johnson does really good, because what did Max – we talked to Max Wright the other day and goes, hey, this offense is very, very complex. He didn't use the word complex, but I don't care what you're doing. If you're the third string tight end, it's complex. You got to know it. You just can't go right out there and play. So I think Max Johnson's going to continue to get better as the year goes on. And, of course, you get better if you're winning. That's why I think this is the big game, because everybody feels, well, they're going to lose to Alabama. I thought they were going to lose to Arkansas. They win. Now they're going to make a lot more progress. Now his offense, and what you touched on, I think the youngsters got to pick more things up. I think if Max Johnson is 10% more comfortable with Jimbo this week, that might translate to 7 more points.
In the second segment here, we'll hear from Stephen Kreisnick of the Clarion Ledger, who covers Mississippi State, and we closed out that segment with him talking about his favorite Mike Leach moment. He said that he thinks Mike Leach enjoys the fact that he doesn't think a whole lot of A&M fans like him. I think he may be mistaken. I think a whole lot of A&M fans really like him as long as A&M isn't playing his team. You've covered him for a long time, back into the Big 12 days and stuff like that. And what is your favorite, or some of your favorite Mike Leach moments? Because everybody enjoys hearing what the Pirate has to say about football and life and anything else.
Mike Leach is just one of those great guys that why you get in the business. He's a high school coach in some of his mannerisms, and he's very accessible, even in this time when coaches are so under pressure to, like Jimbo Fisher lives probably in the Bright Complex. You're going to hear about Mike Leach. Who knows? I always tell a couple stories. We went up to cover one of the Tech games, and at that time, Rich Kroom was our beat writer with me. And we go in, and we have to stay in the same hotel that Tech's putting up their team. Okay? So we're checking in. Here comes Mike Leach and the Red Raider team to check in. It's Friday before the game. And he's got his director of ops with him. And I met Leach a few times before. I said, hey, coach, and he goes, hey, they're checking in. And his op goes, those guys are the reporters for the Eagle. And he goes, oh, yeah. So Leach sits down, talks to us. That was the time when Dennis Franchione had his newsletter. ask him questions. He talked, he goes, I'll tell you what happened about that. I know how that happens. People walk up to you and go, hey, what about this? And you go, okay, yeah, that looks good. I got more things to do, And he's just so enjoyable. He's there cracking jokes. You think it's like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock Friday. And how many coaches before playing, quote, a big game the next day would be sitting there telling jokes, laughing with 2 opposing riders? Mm-hmm. And, it's just who he is. And I've had other reporters tell me the same kind of deals. Mike Foreman at Victoria, almost every reporter that's interviewed Mike Leach has a Mike Leach story because he's just a comic character. I mean, he's who he is. He's funny. He enjoys life. And, that's my number one. And believe it or not, he almost came here one time. He might have been Brian High's offensive coordinator if they'd have hired Hal Mummy, because he came here when Hal Mummy interviewed for the job, and he was out at Briarcrest Country Club, and that's maybe the first time I might have met Mike Leach. But Mike Leach is just he's a character, and at the media days you get to talk to him once in a while, and of course Chip Howard, who we know, Chip Howard is really a good friend actually with Mike Leach, which is how many coaches can say they have good friends with riders that you call not even covered him. Remember, Chip Howard lives here. He's never lived in Pullman or whatever, but Mike Leach is a character.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's all the time we have for this segment. We are going to go behind the enemy lines next segment and hear a little bit about what Mississippi State has leading into this game on Saturday. We'll be back with that after this.